In this video, we are going to look at the Amazon PDK, which is the Project Development Kit. It's a scaffolding tool that you can use to quickly start building your own software projects on AWS. And especially we're going to look at how to use this in the context of using an Amazon CodeCatalyst custom blueprint to really speed up your end-to-end delivery flow for this kind of project. Looking forward to show you how this works and to talk a little bit about the challenges that I faced on the way to making the use of this. So the PDK was integration into Amazon CodeCatalyst was announced in April 2024. I've not had time to have a look before, so this is the first time that I'm actually interacting with the blueprints, but I don't know what PDK means, so let's have a look on what the Project Development Kit actually features. And for that, I'm going to jump over into the tutorial that the AWS team has for that. On the Amazon CodeCatalyst webpage, there is a tutorial creating a full stack application with composable blueprints. The first thing that I found is like clicking on the links that gives me code details takes me to a page that is currently not accessible to me. So I'm going to use this tiny shiny button down here that says provide feedback, and we'll send a feedback over there. So let's see if I get a response. Oh, cool, funny, I need to drive a car. Interesting. Okay, so now that feedback has been taken, let's see how this brings us. Before jumping into the tutorial itself, let's take a brief look at what PDK is and what the Project Development Kit is. For that, I've been accessed the AWS GitHub IO page at the end, right, where the PDK has its explanations on what this actually is. And it describes the Project Development Kit as a possibility of taking building blocks that implement specific patterns and make them available as fast as possible. It also features Progen as a baseline and CDK as an infrastructure as code tool. So the PDK, the way that I see it, is an AWS opinionated version of building Progen projects, and especially in a monorepo. And this is something that might be pretty interesting. Now, you can read about that on the web page itself. It is available in TypeScript, Python, and Java. This is what JSI compilation at the end also offers. And there is some implemented best practices that you can actually use, but it will generate a lot of code for you that you can then adjust. Because it uses Progen, you can also have a life cycle on that. And that's essentially what I'm going to try out today, looking at what the integration with CodeCatalyst offers us. And yeah, let's see how this actually works. So if you're interested to learn more about PDK as a whole, right, there is two learning series. The first one is kind of to build your own PDK project. The second one would be how to build a shopping list application. They are both pretty good. I've been going through them, but we're not going to go as detailed as that in the video today. Today we really want to look at how does this look in CodeCatalyst. So let's jump over to Amazon CodeCatalyst. And in there, if we go to projects and create, we will see that there is the monorepo blueprint, there is the type safety API, there is the Cloudscape React website, and there is the PDK infrastructure. So I would say let's start with the PDK infrastructure and let's just see if we can make this done. Okay, so here it says ensure that you have a PDK mono project monorepo set up. Okay, yeah, and then it will. What will it create for you? It will create an infra and a main branch. What the hell? Let's see. Let's just click this. And as you can see over here, it says it requires a monorepo blueprint, PDK example 1. And let's see if this is going to let us move ahead. So this is interesting. Like now here I got an error message that it cannot synthesize without having that monorepo thing created, but still this button is available to click. This is strange. There is no blueprints in this project. Obviously there is no blueprints, but here I can at least cross-refer to other blueprints and then generate code on top of that. Would be really cool to see the code behind that. So now I clicked on that button and it failed, and it gives me the 2 error messages, but it still takes me back to this. Let's see if I click it again. Well, obviously that doesn't work, but maybe we could see the log file on what happened over here. That is interesting. And yeah, this is the error message that we expect. So let's not try to break this and go back to creating a project for this space. And this time I'm going to follow the rules. That means I'm going to start off with a PDK monorepo that will then create a project with some details that I can hopefully then use to add other blueprints on. And I'm going to cover that in a second as well. PDK example. And I am going to actually stick to TypeScript over here. PDK monorepo. Monorepo, and then I'm going to use npm just because I've been using that for a while. Okay, let's move on. Let's see what this generates for me. And I'm always interested to see what is the CodeCatalyst configuration that also gets created, because I see the blueprints as a possibility to really empower developers at the end to quickly start building projects. So really eager. There was no AWS configuration that I needed to add for this. That means no deployment. Let's see what happens and what has been created. So we are getting a source code repository, as it looks like. The source code repository has some details. Here it says, we recommend applying PDK Blueprints in the following order, as they have a dependency on each other. First the TypeScript API, then the CloudStack React website, then the infrastructure, and then PDK. Okay, sounds like there is a lot of things that I can break. Let's try that out. So there's no issues created. There's just this repository created, and as I already mentioned a little bit earlier, this is project based, which is what you can also see over here. And there is a bunch of things that are added as well by this standard blueprint. Now, how do I add a second blueprint to this one? The README said, let's go ahead and as a next step add the API safety one. So there's, I think that there is 2 ways of doing that. The first way would be, and I don't know, but let's try, creating another project over here, which then I hopefully should be able to choose from here. Oh, this is strange. I cannot really attach it. Okay, so let's not go that route. So how do I add a second blueprint to an existing project? I go to the Blueprints tab, and then I do activate that over here. So here now I could add this one, which will then generate some code for me. So I can choose if I want to use Smithy, which is an AWS internal generation thing. Namespace for my API is obviously going to be cloud.locat. Default PDK API. I will want to stick to TypeScript. The handler languages should be TypeScript as well, and it should automatically generate documentation for me. And I would love to have more than just these 2, which now triggered another code generation on the right hand side. Now there's going to be packages added that will have a default PDK API that's based on this API name, I would guess. and it also generates some documentation and some code for me. Pretty interesting. What I don't see here is any workflows. So this is really generated for me while the blueprint is executed. That is pretty interesting. So let's do that. Okay, we can now see that there's 2 blueprints added to this one. We should also see that there is now new source code added and generated. Let's see. Oh no, there is no new source code added. What the hell? Ah, there is a pull request that I need to approve. And that pull request will now actually add the new stuff for us. Yes, that's it. Okay, cool. So that's the generated code. The challenge is that now it didn't let me choose the license. So this by default assumes Apache. Maybe that's something that we could improve as well. So let's just go ahead and merge this one. And I will delete. Okay, now we merged the changes and we should now have an updated version of the Git, which now has the packages over here. And I'm eager to see if there is a way of tracking with which blueprints have been added. I think that there is nothing visible here in code, but we still don't have any workflow. So essentially it's really just all based on the npm pieces that we have, like all of the package JSON thing, all of the progen.synth that really makes this a thing so far. But obviously there's also no deployment yet. But in a very short time, I've been able to really bring up a bunch of code that I can also now modify going forward. Like I have my handlers over here, the handlers in TypeScript should now have some JavaScript over here, right? This is interesting because this is empty, so we're gonna need to look at that later as well. Okay, so now next step. Let's see, we can now add another PDK blueprint. And as it said, now let's add the website. That will generate a Cloudscape based website. What is Cloudscape? Cloudscape is a design system by AWS, as far as I remember. You can find more about it at cloudscape.design, which gives you a lot of details as well. I can add that to the details as well, and then you kind of can build your own AWS console following that model, right? Generating code seems to be taking a lot here, but once again, this one now adds the website, right? I don't understand that piece. Why do I need to select the target version of it? But PDK example website, and now I can choose the blueprint that I added before. Right. And if I would have multiple ones, that I could generate multiple ones as well. Now the project code that is being generated should change a little bit. It will add a source file, which has the components in the React app, and it will have an index PDK. Cool, let's click that. And I'll look at the results of this in a second. Okay, so now we have added that Cloudscape React website, and now as a next step, we're going to apply the blueprint, which actually adds the infrastructure as code. Before we go there, let's have a quick look on how we changed the source code repository with this website. And as we can see on the repository, we have now additional packages that have been added over here. Oh no, we didn't merge the pull requests, so let's do that one first and then go back here. This kind of still feels a little bit odd. So every time that I add a new blueprint, I will need to actually merge a pull request. Maybe that would be a possibility to optimize from a CodeCatalyst perspective as well. If you click on that apply blueprint thing, the pull request created would be automatically merged. Maybe that would streamline this a little bit. But here now you will see that we have APIs and websites. And this is the app website that we created, which comes with a full-blown kind of end-to-end solution. We still do not have any workflows created, which is a pity, right? Because now this would be something that at least could be running CI/CD tests or CI tests at least, running verifications, linting, and these kind of things in automated fashion. But let's see if the DevOps blueprint adds that perspective. So now we're going to add the infrastructure piece first, which is then going to add the CDK for this. This also feels still, I think I said that. So PDK infra stack. We need to choose the APIs that we want to include and the websites that we want to include in the code generation. And this one will then hopefully bring us some infrastructure as code. And we are indeed nearly done. Which once again brings us another blueprint and another source pull request that we need to merge. So let's have a look. This one, as it looks like, unfortunately, once again, does not add any workflows. So I wonder why the team built the PDK without any workflows until kind of now. And I understand the idea of having a composable monorepo, but I'm not really sure why there is no workflows that does verifications for the different parts and components that have been migrated here, included here, right? So let's see what the DevOps blueprint gives us. So going back to this one, we will now have the infrastructure piece also added, and we can now apply another blueprint, which we will do. And this one will now be the DevOps one, which essentially will generate a PR in a released workflow. I will not need to bootstrap that. Oh, this is strange. It needs to use the stack configured in PDK infrastructure. So this means I need to go back to what I configured over there. As I already forgot. And I can find the configuration by clicking on configure. And with that, I have that piece up here that I can reuse. I need to configure a role. I need to configure a region. Interesting that this comes with Sydney as predefined. And I'm waiting for the project code generation. So this one comes now with the workflows that I already mentioned and an approved licenses YAML. Let's see where this is being used. Over here at the end. Good. So let's see what happens once I merge this one. Okay, that DevOps blueprint has been added. Now once again, let's go and merge the pull request. And let's see what is going to happen afterwards. So this will execute on open and revisions. This means that the pull request workflow now is already running on this branch because we're just adding that. It will run build, Trevi, and the license checker in parallel. Okay, it looks like we are partly successful, I would say. The Trevi scan seems to have executed, and it's executing now, parsing the report to make that available. However, the other two pieces failed, especially because npx progen install failed. And that one kind of failed because it somehow says package log are not in sync. So what I will do is I will merge this pull request now and see if it will then execute correctly. So let's go back to the PR. Let's merge that. And now we should be seeing a workflow executed, or at least kicking off. That is called release. And I'm not sure if that will now change. Let's just have a look on the workflow. Oh, it will most probably fail with the same challenge over there. Cool, so it seems like I'm not able to get this up and running by just using CodeCatalyst. So I'm going to pause the recording here, gonna clone the repository and try to run npm install locally. I'll be right back. So as I guessed before, the relevant workflow on the main branch actually failed with the same error that we had before. So what I did is I cloned the repository, and now I'm going to execute npm install and see what happens. Interesting. Okay, so I'm getting a different error when executing this locally. Let's have a look on the definition of the workflow. Actually, what it does is it runs npm progen install CI. So what I'm going to try is npx. That is the reason for that problem. To be honest, I need to jump into the correct folder, and then let's try again. So npm install worked and gave me a bunch of deprecated warnings. Now let's see what status, what git changes we get. So we now have a change of the package JSON. And there's a bunch of changes there. So let's commit that. Git add package JSON log. Commit. And then let's push that, which will hopefully now trigger another execution of the workflow run, which is what we see over here. And now it is bringing up compute instances and is going to execute the workflows. So that change didn't work, right? So I still have the same issue, actually, which is painful because I don't really know what the root cause is. I'm gonna try to triage this. So I now executed npx progen locally, which should be retriggering npm install in all of the repositories. And now let's see. So there is now a bunch of other things still changed as part of this. And also there's a package and the package log JSON changed. So let me add all of that. Now another workflow run will start and we're going to look at the results in a few seconds. Okay, so that also didn't work. We're still facing the same issues. So the next try is gonna be to execute npx progen install and see if that solves our problem. That did not produce any changes, so maybe, I don't know, something. Gonna execute the same thing that we get through the relevant workflow and see what happens. So here we execute, oh no, we execute install -ci. And let's see what happens. And it looks like we're getting the same error here. And to be honest, I don't know what to do. So let's try progen. npx progen clean install. Install clean. That is not really helpful. So it looks like I've run down a rabbit hole here and don't have an idea really on how to fix that, because I have executed npm install and I'm not really sure what the issue is. Right? So what I can see is that the PDK module requires chalk, whatever that is, and this is something that is then not included here in the dev dependencies. So potentially the challenge is really that thing, like there is stuff in the log file that is not in the package.json. However, the package.json was generated for me, and that makes it really difficult now for me to resolve that. So let's see. I'm gonna send this video out to someone and ask for help. So I ran the same thing locally and using npm progen install or progen npm install in the same way that the corresponding workflow was doing it, and I was able to reproduce the same problem locally, which then actually meant that I had a real challenge to move on, and I stopped recording the video. As you can see, I was now able to resolve this problem, and the way that I did that, I was very lucky that I was able to talk to the product team, to the service, to the people building this thing, and they were able to analyze and point me at a defect that is currently in the PDK itself, right? So there is a bug. It has been opened in April, but it is still open. It's not yet fixed. That points at NPM. So what I did to fix that is I went to the PDK monorepo, changed the configuration of the blueprint, and matched this one to use pnpm. With the change, I got a big pull request for the code. Let me just show that to you so you can see the size of it. And this was done automatically by the blueprint. So at the end, this is what I merged. This is the pull request. That actually had a bunch of changes. I was surprised by the amount of it, to be honest. And I'm still not in love with the loading times for this. But anyway, so you can see that there is a lot of changes pointing at all of the files, and this has all been done automatically for me. So I didn't need to touch any of the files. So it looks like using the PDK blueprint also allows me to quickly change the used package manager. And it was pretty amazing. Like you're gonna see, it's a whole bunch of changes coming into this tree, and it's still being loaded. But long story short, after I merged that pull request, I am now able to run this release flow. And this release flow then actually also deployed out something. And to be honest, I didn't really check that yet. So let's have a look on what happened and what has been deployed over here. Let's see what we can see out of this one. Okay. So there is a bunch of stick. There is a PDK infas track, and I can see a default API endpoint over here. And by the time that you're watching this video, this will most probably already be deleted. So don't think like you're going to do everything with that, right? But you can see that it comes with authentication. It comes with the also some user pools set up already. Now let's have a look. Oh yeah, that looks like this came up with Cloudscape. I don't have a username. This means like for this website, initially it's not allowed to get signed up, but this is Cognito as far as I see it. And it's gonna be talking to the backend. And this is pretty cool, right? So let's have a look on how this is going to look like from the infrastructure side of it. So in CloudFormation, we can now see the PDK infas track over here. And the PDK infas stack has a user identity. It has an example website which points to CloudFront and all of that kind of stuff. It also has the default API, which then points at an API gateway, REST API that has been deployed. And this is pretty cool, right? And this was kind of all now automatically provisioned for us. and put at hand for us so we can also modify that going forward. Using additional PDK blueprints or also adding other blueprints. So as an example, if I now want to add a second type safe API over here, let's try that, if that works. I could now add another API over here. Second.locket.cloud. Here I'm going to use OpenAPI, second API, and then I'm going to use TypeScript again, and I'm going to move over to Markdown and HTML2 as last time. And now let's click Apply Blueprint, which will bring us to a new pull request that we can then approve, and then we're going to see what the deployment does with this. So adding that second piece now gave me another pull request, adding that second API. Let's have a look on what that contains. It could hopefully just have that second API folder in there. Oh, this tree is bugging me. Okay, so loading that tree with 110 files took like 20 seconds or whatever, right? The requests down here are the ones that are causing trouble, but I don't want to really talk about that. Just let me show you what happened. There has been an update to the infrastructure. The infrastructure should now include that second API. So we have a new file here which describes the API itself, which has been auto-generated for us. This also has a new stack. The new stack now is going to be included as well. I think that this is now going to fail because the merge has been not really done in the proper way. But let's see what happens, and then maybe potentially we need to manually fix something by merging things. So let's see. And as I said, I assume that this will now fail the workflow, but in theory, like, we would now be deploying this out, and we would in CloudFormation now have not only the default API, but also have a second API. So another new at the end API, a REST API being created for us that I can also then freely configure and make available. And as I said, I expect this to fail, so bear with me. So I have, while waiting for the workflow to complete, I've created myself a user that I can use to log in. Now, what I was surprised with is that at the moment that I couldn't try to log in, I needed to set up some settings, and those settings then took me also to add MFA. So let me quickly add that MFA thing and add the code that I got from that app. So it comes directly set up with user permissions using MFA, and then I will now see the default API automatically visible as well in the overview, which is pretty cool. There is some settings as well that I can set up, like dark mode, built in natively. Density, I can make that compact. That's pretty cool. This is the user that I've set up for myself. And now, as the workflow keeps progressing, and it's still building some APIs here, 70 minutes ago, which is pretty long, I will continue recording right when this one completed. But it is amazing to kind of see that directly deployed out, and then it looks and feels like an AWS thing, because it uses Cloudscape as we looked at the beginning. That's pretty cool. So after 19 minutes of waiting, the workflow failed, but not as I expected. It failed with an out of space message, which is most probably because I'm using a small version, a free tier account here. Let's try to fix that. So the way that I'm aiming to fix that is I'm going to try to go to the blueprints and change the repos that we had added over here. Like in this piece I had added, I think, multiple generation options, and I will now move that over to use Markdown only and hope that that helps. And I will do that for the same for the other API blueprint that I added, and then I will restart the workflow and see what happens with that piece. So I indeed did the changes that I had mentioned for both APIs. I got 2 pull requests, which I'm going to merge now. And I really hope that the second one is not gonna give me a merge request. Oh, this is interesting. Now applying 2 blueprints at the same time from the same branch name. This is interesting. Let's see what happens. Anyway, I'm gonna merge. So after adding that second API and removing the doc generation, now I can see that it failed with building the open API tools somehow. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna revert that change that I did over there. So going to the blueprints, and I think it was in here where I made that change to use the open API. Oh no, that was in the other one. We'll change it over to Smithy, and then let's see what happens. And yes, this is taking way longer than I expected it to record. So it is like effort number 4 or 5. So the pull request with the config change has been merged, and now we are looking at the workflow, which is now started a minute ago. And that's gonna again take about 10 minutes, so let's see where this goes. This one, and I will not delete the source branch for that. Okay, so this kind of now broke everything, because now I'm only seeing the second change for the second API and not the one for the first API, which I was expecting, because the same branch name has been updated by a pull request. So this is something that the Blueprints team will need to fix pretty soon. Anyway, let's try to move on and do the same change again for the first API. So that was the one. So as you can see, I was able to merge the next pull request, and now another workflow run is executed. And let's see if this actually then is going to be successful or not. So I'm going to stop the recording and come back to this in a few minutes. So as I had guessed, this was not as simple as expected, and it did not take only a few minutes. It took me a little bit more than a day to get this resolved, as you can see over here. However, the latest run was successful. So to remind you what we did, we actually added the second API to our PDK project. After adding that second API, we wanted to do an execution of this, but what happened over here essentially was that there was kind of problems during the merge that the Blueprints did for us, and essentially I needed to fix that. So there was like merge things automatically added, which then failed the website to execute its deployment. Now we managed to get through that, and this run was successful. The website has been also updated and uploaded, as we can see over here. However, what I was expecting that also the website itself would have been now including the second API. This, however, did somehow not work, right? So I was expecting that I would now also get the link to the second API. The second API has been deployed, as we can see here in CloudFormation, but it obviously has a different REST API endpoint, which the website did not really consume. So now I would need to get to do some modifications to that construct to then actually make use of this new API within the API definition. So that didn't work out as perfect as I expected. Regardless of that, we also got new versions of the Blueprints released over here, which is pretty cool. And now I can upgrade all of them to the latest version, right? Clicking by clicking at change to catalog version, and I will be doing that at the next part of this recording, and then let's see what happens with that. So it turns out that updating all of these to the newest version is going to take a while, especially because the code generation seems to be pretty slow. Of course, the reason for that is that the project itself is really big already in the way that it is set up. So I'm going to refrain from doing that, and will then do a wrap up of the video and of what we learned using these PDK based custom blueprints in CodeCatalyst. So what did we learn in this video? We looked at the Project Development Kit from AWS, which gives you a quick start into combining different technologies. And we especially looked also at the existing constructs that you can use in there. We learned that the PDK is Progen based and it built on top of Progen, which is a fantastic open source tool as well. We afterwards looked at CodeCatalyst integration for PDK, which is done through blueprints that you can actually use. Those blueprints can be combined in a way like you can stack them on top of each other, and that quickly generates you some code and also a great cool sample implementation of something. We did not dig deeper into how to do code changes and stuff like that. The main aim here really was to showcase the PDK blueprints and give you a head start into how to use and how to combine them in your day-to-day life. We have faced some challenges while recording this video and by preparing for this. I have given some of the feedback back to the teams that have built this. If you find anything that you find meaningful to add, please add that to the comments or reach out to me separately so I can forward your feedback to the service team as well. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed and that you learned something as well, and looking forward to see you soon. Bye bye.